Welcome everybody to Perfecting PT today. So I'm pumped about today. So I have Mike Russell with me today. If you're on the video, you'll see him as Mike the PT. You can also find him on Instagram as Mike the PT. And what's special about Mike and I's relationship is he was actually my first boss, first mentor, first boss. I remember we started working in a clinic together, and it was just he and I. I would do the front desk stuff and help with tech stuff. And he was just hammering away at evals trying to get a caseload so that we could hire another PT. It was his third location. And so the reason I'm here at all is because Mike gave me a job and he mentored me for the 4 years I was in undergrad. And he's been a big influence on my life. So special treat. And one more thing to add, we're going to talk about a couple things today. So Mike is I will say this, he's a very, very good businessman. He started he bought his first company, Henderson Physical Therapy. He turned it into Optimal, and he took it from just having a couple locations to five locations in a very short amount of time. And then he sold it, and he decided that that's just his jam. He likes building businesses. He likes the dynamic of it. So he now started another company called Elevation Physical Therapy. He's working on scaling as well. And for anyone who doesn't know, I'm from Las Vegas, and Mike is in Las Vegas as well. And if there are people in Las Vegas that are having issues with running, particularly those who are recreational runners, trail runners, half marathoners, I would say as a general rule, they're going to Mike. And if they aren't going to Mike, they're familiar with Mike in some form of another, because he's very well connected to those groups in town. So, I'm pumped. I hope you guys can enjoy our conversation, because it's been a while since Mike and I have got to catch up, and I'm excited to see what we get through today.
Nate Dog, you were
What's up?
You will always be the Nate Dog. My lead tech. You were the dude that would travel. You would rotate all the clinics, man. You're like, all right, what do we need? What do we need to order? What's here? What's not here? Inventory, training. All right, go over there. We hired a new tech. Go make sure they're not going to hurt anybody. They're going to be okay. They're going to do what we want them to do. Man, you took it and ran, man. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a great time. I had a good time.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was a blast, man.
So, Mike, so we were chatting before I pressed record, and you're like, "Man, let's riff. Let's talk business," because I asked you how it's going.
Yeah.
And what's unique about you is a lot of people nowadays are really pushing hard for like the cash-based practices. And I believe Elevation is an insurance-based model. Is that correct?
Yep.
And you were going to tell me kind of all about that when you're like, let's just record. Let's just get after it. So I'm curious what you were going to say.
Well, it's interesting because there's a lot that's going on in physical therapy, especially in the private practice world. And if anyone's anyone on any of the groups, there's a uncaged group, there's the brick and mortar group, there's a variety of people out there. There's mobile PTs now. There's a big push for the in-home cash-based services. Brick and mortar insurance is actually becoming less and less desirable, right? It's called the income squeeze is happening. So in these brick and mortar insurance clinics, and that's kind of what I got really good at. I was very, very good at getting referral sources to refer patients, treat them well, and we had a good back office. So biller, authorizations, and benefits, we got on top of that right away. Made sure that was bread and butter, and make sure that information's accurate, so that when we do see a patient, we can tell them, this is what your benefit is, this is what we're billing, and this is what we're going to collect. This is your responsibility over this period of time. And so it's fun, it's fantastic. It's what I know really well. But we're just watching reimbursement constantly go down and over tanking, right? And so over the past several years, so just for example, so I sold my last company in July of 2019. So from July 2019 to April of 2022, I opened up the clinic in April of 2022. So the difference between 2019 and 2022 is cheaper reimbursement, so less reimbursement overall, with salaries, exponentially higher, not only for therapists, but also assistants, techs, and our minimum wage is going up. And even the front and back office people. So, from 2019 to now, it's like, well, I'm making the same money. And so how am I going to take making the same money and do this? So it's been a lot harder this round. And I was like, I thought I had the recipe. I'm good to go. 5 more, turn and sell. 5 more, turn and sell. 5 more, turn and sell. That's not going to happen. The growth strategy. And the other part is the physician-owned services is a big deal here in Nevada. So you get orthopods that are all putting their own physical therapy companies in-house. And we're getting fewer and fewer of those referrals coming out. They're keeping them all in-house. So you have to fight a lot harder. We're a lot more scrappy out here trying to do that. I mean, there's definitely other ways to attract patients. And you've had some wonderful guests on that do the Meta, Instagram, YouTube type of marketing and stuff like that. So cold outreach and things of that nature. So it was like, okay, so I'm behind the curve in divesting into some more cash-based services. And so I was introduced to some technologies that I get to actually use with my hands. It's not there's lasers, and then there's the shock waves, and those kinds of things are becoming more clinically acceptable. So we're seeing more and more clinics go, oh, I'll make that higher end purchase on a device that I've heard about that treats a patient. So with dry needling and shockwave and stem wave and lasers and all that kind of fun stuff. So I have 2 other technologies that I've kind of started using. An older use, older technology, revamped, and we're using them again. And I'll talk to you about those at another time. But so divesting into the cash-based services. So I'm like, I'm only one clinic. I'm perfectly fine with that. Is there a chance to grow? Absolutely. And I had those discussions today and have been having them. But it's kind of going, hey, let's do it smart this time. Don't just grow and then fill in the spots. I'm going to fill in all the gaps this time so that when we replicate, it's a 100% replication. So I have the back office systems really, really honed in. Now all I have to do, train therapy, train techs, train assistants, so that they know kind of what to do, how to sell. I know we don't like that word, but how to talk about these cash services that we have, so that we are taking patients with a low reimbursing insurance and saying, hey, there's an extra that we can do on top that reduces pain, increases motion, will get you to heal a little bit faster and get you back to doing the things you love a little bit faster. So trying to do all that the right way up front is kind of where I'm at. And then I was like, I've tested out in a couple chiropractors' offices, a doctor's office. I'm like, yeah, let me just kind of be a guest in someone's house, low overhead, minimal to no rent, and then I can do my thing. But now I'm at the mercy of somebody else when they're like, I need that room. I got to give up that room. And if I got something else going on, I got to give it up. So it didn't work for the model that I am used to. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like the cash-based, and I know there's cash-based practices, that's fine. If we want to make a change in the insurance overall, I'm trying to get into insurance and show insurance companies that we have technologies and capabilities to help people get better, faster. And then if we use those technologies, we can get people in, out in a timely manner, pay us more, kind of a thing. Who knows if that's even going to happen, but that's my hopeful dreams.
Sure. So you broke out there for just a sec. So for anyone listening that kind of missed that last little bit that Mike said, it's if we want to be better respected and therefore have better reimbursement rates, like we have to prove that we are doing something valuable in a timeline that is relatively impressive. Like we want to be able to get people healthier, like higher, like less pain and more mobile as quickly as possible. And until we prove that, it's difficult to constantly be like, we deserve more money. It's like, do you? Because you've been seeing that person for 3 months and their last progress note said their knee motion's the same, their pain's the same, and they're not doing so hot. Like, what the heck are you doing? And I will bring this up because some people listening are going to get really upset when they hear Mike bring up passive modalities like shockwave and stim wave and all that stuff. Let's
Manual
be very,
therapy.
I know, good old hands. How dare you? How dare you touch people with your hands, Mike? And the fact of the matter is, oh, it drives me freaking nuts. If you have read research that says shockwave does nothing, that research is worthless. If you have read research that says stim wave does nothing, that research is also useless. If research is telling you whether something is good or bad, or does work or doesn't work, that research, in my mind, is absolutely worthless. The purpose of research is not to tell you whether something is good or bad, but when and for whom something is good or bad. And I think the research has really dropped the ball in that respect. Like, it's not that shockwave does nothing. It's that shockwave will help certain people, and the researcher's job is to find what those demographics are and the best way to weed them out to know that it's an appropriate intervention. So and that goes for everything. Goes for manual therapy, goes for ultrasound, goes for all of the things that you have been told potentially are of no value. They're passive. You're better off to just get people moving. It's like, wrong. All of these things are tools. All tools have a purpose if we can figure out the patterns where the tool fits. So anyone screaming at the radio, if you haven't already shut it off, calm the freak down, okay? Because everything has a population, a patient demographic that it is best suited for to maximize results. And I just have to say that because, oh, never mind. I won't. I won't.
No, I agree with you. So let me just add one more thing to that. And I was reading a bio today, and it was funny. I was kind of thinking along the same line. Someone's going to do, like, for our APTA, our chapter. They're doing like a Wednesday lecture and this and that. And so I was just kind of reading through the bio. Oh, who is this person? They're going to talk about concussions and with
Mhm.
sports trauma and auto accidents and stuff like that. And so visual disturbances in concussion patients who are concussed. And so I was reading
Sure.
through her bio, and she is this wonderful person and had a wonderful education and enjoys performing one-on-one evidence-based practices to the patient population. And
I
I'm
get it.
like sitting there going, I go, wow, okay. What if a non-evidence-based treatment or procedure
Mhm.
works for a patient,
Right.
but it's not in a randomized controlled trial, and would you just bypass it, but knowing that it helps your patient achieve their outcome, achieve the goal, right? And I'm like,
Mhm.
I want to ask that. It's just we kind of been fed this kind of rubbish about it's got to be evidence based. Well, like you said, well, what's evidence based? Just because we get it into a research, someone who pays a lot of money or who has reach into a certain journal publishes something in a specific population, usually healthy, usually all men, women aren't included, all young. I mean, we're just kind of like going, yes, this suggests such that boom, 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 and there's a minimal detectable change in there. And I've always thought, like with research, I'm like, okay, let's say out of 100 people, your research reports a 60% or 60% of those people get better with that treatment or with that treatment cluster, whatever it is. Well, what
Sure.
about the 40? What about the 35%?
Amen. Amen. I
I
have this
mean,
thought all the time.
what if I apply a procedure or apply a treatment to them that goes, hey, Mike, that was great. And I'll give you an easy example. Cupping.
Okay.
Cupping is on the low end of effectiveness, um, effective treatment, especially with what we're saying, increasing blood flow and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. But I've had patients go, Mike, I'm doing all these exercises and I'm not getting better. But the chiro or the massage therapist down the road did cupping and I feel better. And I'm just like, if someone else is going to do it, and I have the means and can do it maybe better or maybe with a little bit better thought process or maybe with my initial evaluation would get me a little closer to treating the right thing, man, I'm going to do that all day. I'm not going to waste a patient. I'm not going to waste insurance's money. I'm not going to waste a patient's time and money and be unethical about it.
Sure.
But I am going to definitely, I'm going to go, let's try this. After we exercise and after we establish a home program and after I show them, look, did you notice this? Did you notice this hurt? Did you notice that hurt? And yeah, so I'm with you, man. It's brutal, huh?
Oh, it's so rough. And what's hard is like the people that are the voices that get heard are generally between 30 and 40. And it's like, dude, you're 10 years into your career and you think you have the right to, say that a whole aspect of the profession is garbage because you read a paper done by other people that are between 30 and 40. And I know that that's not always the case, but like to Mike's point, you have to look, it's like, oh, well, 75% of the people got a clinically significant outcome with the intervention we provide. And it's like, right. What about the other 25? And it's like, yes, you should be evidence informed. I think that the concept of evidence-based evidence gives you very, very, very little to go on because evidence is never as part of a system because it's not capable of establishing the validity of a system. It's capable of establishing the potential validity of a part of a system. And so that's why you need good mentors. Like I had Mike early on. I have my current boss. Mike had his own mentors. It's like you having a good mentor and getting access to maybe some of the older books that these good clinicians have written. Like those are going to, in the words of Mike, those are going to elevate your practice way more than reading a bunch of articles. So and to your other point, Mike, like a lot of therapists, they don't like the word sell. Like I'm trying to sell you on physical therapy. It's like, well, you know who markets themselves really well? Personal trainers and coaches. And the way physical therapy is going, most physical therapists are marketing for personal trainers and coaches by saying, no, we can't feel things with our hands. The things that we do don't matter. Doesn't matter. Like there's nothing specific about manipulation. There's nothing special about what we do. And it's like, you are doing a fantastic job ruining your potential for business.
What's funny is, boy, they spent an awful lot of money to become a personal trainer, man. I mean, it's like you dropped 150 grand on your education to come out. And I had a kid a year out of school tell me, I don't do that. I do progressive overload. Manual therapy is minimal. I go, how long have you been out of school? A year? Hey, all respect to you, but where do you get your patients? Oh, you want me to provide them for you, and then you want to treat based on what you think you do. Sounds good, man. Well, let's move on.
Right. Right. So in thinking, guys, like there's nothing wrong with using shockwave but you need to think about it. It's not like I don't know what's going on, so I'm just going to throw shockwave at someone. That's not the point. The point is you have to have this little running observation in your head that says, Linda's had knee pain for a few weeks and we've been doing overload. We've been trying to get her more active. We've been trying to help her kind of manage her symptoms. Like maybe I could try this thing. And then you're like, I'm going to apply this with a given parameter that makes sense to me. And if she comes back and says it was awesome, it wasn't that it just took 3 weeks for the exercises to kick in. It's probably that one of these other interventions that is supplementary to these other physical kind of bigger interventions we provide is giving value to the patients. So I guess, so from that standpoint, Mike, how do you feel about people that are thinking about starting a brick and mortar company? Because it seems like your previous strategy of, hey, I can build good relationships with physicians. They can come to my clinic and I can provide, manual therapy and good exercise therapy. It sounds like that is getting more and more difficult to do. So, what are your thoughts on people coming out that are like, I'd like a brick and mortar. I'd like to buy like someone else's brick and mortar? Like, what do you feel, having done everything you've done, the kind of limitations or the potential problems, as well as the upsides of having a business like that?
So my one thought, and I'm still having a hard time with this. So we went to a restaurant. It's called Slim Chickens. It's a new,
Mhm.
it's a Cane's like restaurant, right? So we
Okay.
went there. Let's go try it. So chicken tenders, fries, and the bread. I'm like, well, that's a lot like Cane's, right? But they
Sure.
have a variety of sauces, and they have
Hmm.
variety of salads and wraps and sandwiches. So it's kind of doing all one thing, but they're trying to put a lot of things on it. And when I asked everyone, like the family that we were there with, I'm like, do you like this or Cane's? They're like, well, Cane's is better. Why is Cane's better? It offers a lot less, doesn't it? One
Yeah.
sauce, one chicken, one fry, and that
Mhm.
is it. And so I'm like, what I think and what I'm going to start to kind of chisel down on is I've kind of been like the jack of all trades physical therapist because that's how my mentor was. It was a top down, fingers to toes, balance to pulmonary, low back to post operative. And so I think if someone
Mhm.
wanted to get out there and in a very small space with minimal equipment, but if you hyper focused and niche down into something, I think you would find um, a community that would get to you, find you, seek out your services without having to go to the MD office or trying to find a random referral source. If you focused right down in and you're like, I'm going to be the neck and back guy of this whole area, and you went at it hard and became very, very good, I think you would benefit from it, and you would benefit. I think you would benefit faster than doing what we used to do in the old days: hang a shingle, put the open sign up, and then kind of go and just sort of knock doors, go to all the local physicians that are in the close immediate area, and it's going to take some time to kind of build up. I mean, what I did, and I think what's still viable if you are trying to start your own businesses, so if you have a job that you're working at, you're going to get a side hustle, home health, or side work on Saturdays or
Mhm.
evenings, whatever you're going to do, you're going to start ramping that up and come back on your full-time job, go to side hustle, and then from side hustle go into lease a building or lease a space or go into a gym or go to a chiropractor's office, go into the chiropractor's office, and then start downing here as this starts to gain. So,
Sure.
without, don't go, well, I'm either going to get a SBA loan at 11% and borrow $400,000 and let this roll. And then they got you chained down for the rest of your life, trying to get all that paid back. So there's
Sure.
really, really intelligent ways to do it and a lot of variety. I just don't think the go open your practice and just go, well, I'm here, come and see me. I think you'll get to break even a lot faster if you are niche down and you go and seek out that community.
Sure. And that makes sense to me. And that sounds like a very common model used by like the cash-based side.
Mm-hmm.
How is that model affected if you're like hoping to get like if you're hoping to do insurance based?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, obviously, you're going to need to have relationships with the clinicians and doctors so they can send them over, unless of course people have insurance where they can go direct access. Um, so how does wanting to be kind of an insurance based model impact that plan?
So just getting panel and insurances, there's a time commitment to that. So the
Hmm.
two easiest ones are our federal payers, Medicare and Medicaid. And we can
Okay.
usually be credentialed. And even if you have a current job, your NPI number is attached to whoever you're working to, you can get
Hmm.
an NPI two. So you can get a second NPI number to start doing your other things and trying to credential yourself under
Hmm.
Medicaid, Medicare, and go start going into the federal payers if that's the direction you want to go. Then you have to seek out some of the other commercial payers if you want to do it. So as you seek out the commercial payers, seek out the ones that are going to be able to pay you enough to support you in what you're trying to, your goals. And then you got to kind of slowly panel them. But in that time, as you're doing maybe home health, as a contractor for an agency, maybe you're gonna get yourself your Medicare number, and then when the home health is run out, you're gonna be like, hey, home health is out, and you don't really want to go to a clinic yet. I am credentialed. I do have my own LLC. I have a small business I'm trying to build. If you'd like to, I'd be more than happy to come in and see you. Then, if you then you can even with your go get your EMR, get your clearinghouse set up on the billing side of everything. You're gonna load their information in and do a couple of trial runs with just this one little wonderful old lady that loves having you come in, and you're doing effective work for her. You're going to bill out, see how the billing works, watch how the money comes in, how long it takes, and then you can start adjusting there and start going, okay, well, perfect. Now let me either um, have an outsource someone doing my billing or bring someone in house. And then you can kind of start, all right, I'm gonna have someone from home doing it for me for my 5 patients that I currently have. And then as I'm slowing my side hustle down and then working over to what I'm going to do, then you can start doing that, doing some more of the credentialing or seeing more patients that you've been paneled with. But then
Okay.
always throwing the cash out there. Hey, I'm not credentialed with, whatever that awful insurance is. I apologize, but I do take cash. I will provide you with a super bill that you can, if you have an out of network benefit, you can submit it yourself.
Okay. Yeah, good to know. Because I think, like, I don't know where physical therapy is going, because I feel that a lot of young PTs, particularly fresh out of school, maybe in their first 5 years, they are in many ways not practicing physical therapy. They are like your guy that you said, he'd been a year out of school. He's like, I don't use my hands. He's like, I progressive overload. I create plans. It's like, okay, so now you're a strength coach. It's like
And there's
now,
nothing wrong with
and
that.
there's nothing wrong with that at
I just
all.
think he paid. I think he just paid a lot of money to just count reps.
No,
I mean, and
absolutely. And so I think it's helpful to understand that if you are like if you want to do cash based, in many ways, if you're not going to use your hands, you never needed your physical therapy license. If you are going to do cash based, you might as well utilize everything that you are allowed to do. And you'll probably find that the more you use your hands, the more you're like, oh, I just sucked at this before, which is why I didn't think hands were useful. It's like, and then you can and be like, oh, as a medical provider, as a healthcare provider, I can leverage the cash pay, which, by going to the gym and doing some things, but I can also leverage access to the other market of insurance based. Even though the reimbursement rate is declining, it's like you could find a way to balance that out if you're looking for multiple ways to maintain a caseload and be able to build a business.
yep, I agree with you. Yeah, and
Cool.
it's what no, and then I think of this. So if I think of myself, right? If I wanted to be a one-on-one cash-based physical therapist, I couldn't support my family. I couldn't see 5 or 8 people per day or patients per day. Let's say, I mean, and there are people out there charging $250 or $300, and I've
Mhm.
had patients come back from seeing those people. And they're like, oh, I spent an hour and a half with this person. It was $300. They were just, and what was it? It was a massage. I mean, it was hands-on care, fascial stretching technique, scraping, mobilization, IA stem, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, I mean, no, if someone wants to pay you $150 to count reps while they're working out, there's nothing wrong with that. Take advantage of it. But that's a limit. That's limited. That's a limited time. They're not doing that over a period of time. And so you have to, that churns. You have to go find and get more new clients. And that it's a brutal system. Embrace what we're really good at is, working with patients and people who are in pain, who have debilities, deconditions, all these other extra areas that you can help them under insurance. Have another service to provide to them. Uh, Another technology. Hey, check this technology out. Let's try this on this chronic low back pain that The surgeon will no longer cut your back after the 5th fusion. It's done now. And you still have pain. It's unfortunate. So we got to do something else here. It's, Jefferson curls are not going to help that patient. CrossFit and high rocks is not going to help that patient. I would love for them just to be able to get up off the floor. Okay, well, what can I give to you that will help you in case you are at home and your husband's gone and you can get up from the floor? Let's try this. Oh, your hip is just severely tight. There's no way you're going to be able to go into a half kneeling or a tall kneeling position. Let's work on that. Let me stretch you a little bit. Let me do a little mobilization. No one thinks, an inferior or a lateral hip mob works anymore. And so it's all good as long as the patient is achieving the goal that you're setting them out to achieve. And if it's within the bounds of therapeutic exercise, neuromuscular re-ed, therapeutic activity, I'm okay with it. I mean, I had a guy, he was talking about, if I took TheraBand and I did external rotation, that's therapeutic exercise. If I took a box and picked it up from the ground and put it up on a shelf, that's therapeutic activity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I can, and if I wanted to go into D1, D2 patterns, okay, well, now we're into neuromuscular re-education because we're into PNF. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many ways that we can do really, really well at this, ethically, legally. We just let a couple of people out there kind of blow smoke and say, you're going to get arrested if you charge for 2 therapeutic activities for this Medicare patient. And so everyone's running. Everyone's like, well, I don't want to be arrested or, criminally prosecuted. So I'm just going to go take people's cash money. And there's a lot of people doing it and it's doing great. But as a profession, I think we're going to make a bigger impact as we come together, do better in our practices with insurance and start showing these companies, look, we are doing better, because they're going to start moving into that billing model where it's total knee replacements. The average suggests 12 visits. So you get 12 visits and here's the money you're going to get from it, period, the end. So it's like, we're going to see those kinds of things coming forward. We just got to be ready for them. And when we're good, when you're providing good value and you're effective at what you do, they'll do better and then they'll be on their way.
Yeah. So for anyone, for those listening, like all Mike is really saying is maximize the value you offer. If that means finding niche services that may cost more upfront to invest in, that may be the case. But if you're the only one in town with, a certain type of intervention, and it's like, or maybe other people have it, but they're just throwing it at everybody, and you find out a way to include it into a system that, that balances things out and amplifies the effect, like you will get better outcomes. And what I will say, the people that you want to learn from, and this is nothing against those who are working in cash-based practices. The people you want to learn from are people who have been practicing 20, 25, 30 years, because they will say stuff like Mike said earlier. They're going to say stuff. They're like, well, where's the evidence? The evidence doesn't say that anymore. And it's like, okay, close your ears to whatever the evidence is and everyone else is saying. Just open your eyes and look at how, like, the outcomes this guy's getting. Ultimately, physical therapy, the evidence does not matter if the patient does not get better. Outcome-based, like, practice will always beat evidence-based practice. And so, like, the people that you want to learn from are probably in a brick and mortar right now because that's how they were kind of brought up themselves. And so before you go out, I'm going to go do my own thing. Maybe look at working within a company, getting good mentorship. And then when you go to actually do your stuff, you have prepared yourself to maximize the value you can offer alone and played with some ideas in a safe to fail environment where there is a regular referral source. Is this kind of continual thing. Because if you are like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to start a cash practice, I'm going to go do my thing. And it's like, and you get 20 people on board and you get this big lump sum. You're like, oh man, I am killing it. And then they're like, actually, you suck. I could just go see Mike and I don't have to pay nearly the same amount. Like, you're going to run out of business at some point unless you can keep unless you can keep convincing people that they just need to exercise another month doing those deadlifts and their back will feel better. It's like,
so I had a kid, high school age. I think he was a sophomore at the time. No, maybe junior. His mom brought him into me. Hey, this is who it is. His back hurts. We were going with they were seeing a cash-based therapist that they got suggested to go over and see, and his back's not getting better. How many visits did you have with him? Just like 3 or 4, but his back keeps hurting. Okay, well, what happened? All right, he plays volleyball. He's a middle blocker for high school volleyball and plays club, so he plays a lot of volleyball throughout the year. So what does volleyball players do, right? They jump and they extend, right? When they jump to hit, their back coming forward and hitting, right? So I said, well, what kind of stuff? I looked at the kid. Well, okay, what kind of stuff were you doing? He starts going through like Superman exercises on the ball and hyperextension, no core work.
Yeah, obviously, Mike, the back is just weak. The back is just weak.
No front chain stuff whatsoever. And I'm like looking and going, okay, well, let's try just a couple quick things here real quick. Let's try instead of doing the bird dog, let's just try the dead bug first. Yeah, that's extremely difficult. Okay, let's bring it down to a supine march or a tabletop. All right, let's bring it down just a little bit more. All right, you just don't have really, really good control because of pain. Pains cause this problem. And so I'm sitting there, and actually this kid actually ended up having a pars fracture.
Okay.
And he's out there doing a bunch of hypers and a bunch of extension work when it wasn't indicated for the type of pain that he had, right? We did a heel drop test on him and did some testing. It's like, well, it hurts, but big, strong kid, healthy, maybe not. Let's kind of let it wait and see. No, we got x-ray and it indicated.
Well, and it's interesting that you bring that up, Mike. So for anyone who doesn't know, I was fortunate enough to hear my mentor talk about this at work. So one of his friends is conducting, forget the name. If I think about it, I'll bring it up later. But one of his buddies is doing research on adolescents with low back pain. And I think he's up in Oregon or Washington. And they found that 80% of teenagers that have back pain have a pars fracture. It's like,
that's
it is
crazy.
Not right. And if anyone's like, no, that's not true. It's like, I'll see if I can find the article, the source for you. And so we routinely in Colorado Springs, like if we get a teenager that comes in with back pain and it's like, it's not like across the pelvis, like it's legitimately in the back, like in the lumbar spine. It's like, it just hurts. And we test them out and we're like, well, everything looks relatively okay. Like you've got some limitations, but you're okay. We order them an x-ray, and I've only had one patient that didn't have a pars fracture.
And so, man.
Yeah, so I have found that to be generally true.
And the x-ray will miss.
So yes, it has to be a very specific x-ray.
Yeah, the oblique will catch it, but if it's not a very defined fracture yet, and the MRI has to pick it up. And so I'll have kids come from the pediatrician and they did an x-ray and it said it's negative. Fine, let's go through the examination. Let's check it. A week or 2 weeks go by and they're resting from their sport or they're resting from whatever they're doing, and the pain is worse or still there and nagging. It's like, MRI. Absolutely. Yeah. So with kids shouldn't have low back pain. That's a secret. Kids should not have low back pain. Gymnasts, they're flipping, flopping all over the place. Their back never hurts until they get an injury or something does happen. And so then you're like, but yeah, when a kid is complaining of low back pain for a long period of time, it gets me nervous. And I tell the parents, I'm like, look, I'm not trying to say something, but imaging is so easy these days. Our MRI facilities in Las Vegas, they have 10:30 p.m. slots.
Whoa.
10:30 p.m. slots. A patient was like, I'm getting my MRI at 10:30 tonight.
Holy freak.
Welcome to Vegas, baby.
Right. Yeah. Ever since I moved out of Vegas, like things close. What the heck?
Oh, not here.
Things close at like 9:30 at night, 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're closed?
Yeah.
So, so if that's just a random little nugget from this conversation. Like as a general rule,
find that, and I want to see that research. That'll be good research.
Okay, I will jot that down. So pars, fracture, percentile. Okay. Um, but yeah, so just a general little nugget, like if you're getting an adolescent, because again, Mike and I are going to talk about runners here in a minute, and there are runners that are so weak in the hips that that low back is just overextended constantly because they're trying to get some propulsion and they do not have good hip extension. So if you are getting an adolescent with like persistent low back pain that does not appear to be getting better with treatment, you may want to send them in for an x-ray and then, continue treatment, but there may be some underlying thing. And it's not like someone that's 35 with back pain. So we'll use that as a bit of a segue, Mike. So most of the runners you treat, they are, I would consider distance runners. Would you agree?
Yeah. I see a few sprinters on occasion.
Okay, so most of the runners I've seen you do, they are people who are like running multiple half marathons per year, multiple marathons per year, or minimum have a relatively high weekly mileage.
35 to 50
35 to
miles.
50 miles a week.
Mm-hmm.
And including some people with similar volume, and it's trail running.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the way that we generally outline this is we take like a hypothetical patient and we run them through. So like we give them a very general, like a general thing just to let people's minds chew with stuff as we go through like an evaluation process. So what do you find? So I guess let's kind of pick some buckets. Let's create some buckets because a lot of runners have the same limitations. What are the biggest limitations that you find in distance runners? Particularly, is it like, are there certain joints that are hypo or hypermobile? Are there certain weaknesses or instabilities that you find more often? Like, let's just start with a general overview of like, what are your kind of beliefs about why people experience pain and the problems that are associated with long distance running?
So I guess what I would commonly see, and I wanted to do some research on it, it's just extremely difficult. I call it the runner's back. And so I'll bring in runners and I'll say, okay, well, what's wrong? Well, either back or hip or even a lower extremity, anything below the knee, injury they're coming in, I'm going to flex them, extend them, and rotate them through the lumbar spine. Squat, overhead deep squat, go as low as you can go. And then we'll do maybe some lunging forward back. Let me see what the control of the knee is. We'll do heel raises, double, just to make sure they're okay there. Go into single, and then we'll go down and go and lay down, and then we'll do the hip muscle testing in that way. So what I mean by the runner's back is runners will go palms to the floor and have decent rotation bilateral. Sometimes thoracic spine limitations are there, and we'll catch that in a run gait assessment as well. They won't be able to extend. And so just because you don't have discomfort or pain extending backwards, if you can't get your shoulder blades or the spine of your scapula past your ankles, is a good kind of relative kind of measurement, and you don't have a nice C reverse or a C curve of your lumbar spine as you're moving into extension, you're pivoting maybe off of L4-5 or maybe even a little bit lower. Their back stiff and extends just 20 degrees or so. And in almost all cases, minimal discomfort pressure, but almost no pain. So it's a dysfunctional movement, but it isn't causing pain, but it does need to be addressed. And the reason is, and you alluded to it, is poor hip extension in endurance runners because they're not upright running, shoulders back. Oh, I'm getting some
Oh,
weird
heck
stuff in the
yeah.
background too.
Fireworks.
Applause. All right.
Fireworks.
That was awesome. So anyway, yeah, they're not able to upright stand, shoulders back, and pull the legs back behind them. We call it the couch sitting position in runners. They're hunched over, they're leaning forward and doing the marathon shuffle. And don't get me wrong, I mean, people that are running 100-mile races, I mean, you get to that point, you're not doing 6-minute miles over 100 miles. So
Right.
it's it's a lot of fun to see them do it, and there is a variety of terrain, but in the most part, in their long distance running, over those long distance miles, you're sort of flexed forward just a little bit. Shoulders are rounded, and so your back gets stiff. Your low back doesn't want to extend, and then you're getting rotation stiff, either hip or low back or mid back's causing that problem. So you have to kind of work through all of those areas there. But for the most part of a hypomobile joint, lumbar spine's not giving us our extension that we need, but they're flexing all the way down. They're like, oh, I'm good. I've got full flexion. And it's like, hey, that's fine. You can have all the flexibility you want. But if you're
Mhm.
having pain in a joint, the regional interdependence that our body has to have, if you're going to, you can't just rob from one area for too long, you're going to create a problem in another area. So a stiff low back, almost in all runners, was a pretty interesting find to me.
Okay. Well, and that makes sense to me. On my last episode, so this will come out after my episode with Zach. So in my last episode with Zach, he treats a lot of baseball players. And what people fail to recognize is that the motion has to come from somewhere. And the people that are just like, get moving, stay active, like keep your body limber, like the motion will come from somewhere. And if you don't figure out a way to make it come from the places respectively that it should, certain joints will become hypomobile at the expense of certain ones being hypermobilized.
Yep.
And they can become symptomatic, and so can the hypomobile ones, which is why it's so important to be able to have a differential diagnosis with both active assessments, passive assessments, and hands-on assessments to see what you feel. So if someone is coming to you, Mike, and you know very little about them, are there things that they will say in the subjective about their runs or about their pain that you're saying, I think this is more of a back issue. I think this is more of a hip issue. I think this is more of an ankle or foot issue. Like what things are you picking up on when they're just telling you about their experiences while running?
You usually have to tease out the training error that caused the injury.
Oh,
So
okay.
we don't get injured running. Running is a difficult sport. It's a repetitive fall and catch, right? And so
Sure.
you just do it over a period of time. And if your body's not adapted to the imposed demand, you
Mm-hmm.
have to get it all ready for it. So if you're, from a runner that runs a relatively flat race, goes and runs downhill, even for a short distance, is going to go, wow, my anterior tib's killing me, my quads are shot, and my knees hurt. And
Sure.
so totally different running style, totally different like issue. So I have to figure out the training error. And so it's like, okay, well, what's your weekly mileage? Has that jumped? And I
Mhm.
remember I got into a guy's Strava and I watched his month, and he would totally lied to me. I got it, took a screenshot of it, and when I saw him again, I go, do you see that little spike right there where you went from, 10 miles, 12, 8, 9, and then to a 20, and then a 22, and then
Oh,
a 19, and
ugh.
stuff like, and they're spread out over time, but he just went from a relative distance that he was used to, and said, well, I have ultra coming up, so I have a 32 points whatever mile race or more coming up. I got to take that and go whoop, and bumped it up. And so I go,
Mm.
okay, well, that's probably what happened. So let's just not do that again. Okay, now what hurts? Okay, is it the lateral side of your knee? Is it the quads, your glute, or hammy? Whatever is hurting, we'll start with that. But like I said, I will always do a top-down assessment.
Sure.
And I for whatever reason, I'll do it that way. Let's look at the neck and go all the way down, and then we'll see what we got.
Okay. Oh, okay. And got it. So a big thing is like, what has their training been like lately? Have they suddenly changed to a different type of terrain or a type of running where maybe they were just doing flat runs around their neighborhood and now suddenly they went for, an extended trail run, or they started doing hills, or they started doing
Yep,
other things. So kind of
yep,
training errors where they're like, oh, well, I
yep.
felt like I just wanted to, I was wanted to do a trail run. So I went and just hit it. So looking for like specific like volume changes, and I'll just call it like quality of running changes. Like, what is the quality of the terrain they're running on? Um, and I know that this is a big one you'd always ask runners. It's how often do you do any type of resistance training?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what do you mean I run? And you're like, okay, what about weights? And they're like, what do you mean I run? And you're like, well, right. But you also need to do that. Like you need to do resistance training to keep your legs as strong as possible so that running has less of a negative impact. So when you go into your assessment, you already brought it up. So you do like a lumbar assessment, you reach for the toes, you're looking for aberrant motion, do side bending, rotation, extension. Again, looking like, are they dumping at the hips and they're like a lumbosacral region just goes, but the rest of their lumbar spine is relatively fixed. Can they lean back? Do they have good control? So when they do lunges, so I just want to walk through this with you. When they do lunges, what are you looking for that cues you in that there is a problem either on the side that has pain or the side that doesn't? Because I find when I'm looking at someone who has lower quarter pain, so low back and down, sometimes, actually, I think almost all of the time, where they have pain is not so much the problem as the result of, and like their other accumulated problems, and that's simply where it's presented. So I always like to look at both sides and the deficits. Would you agree with that?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to look at both. Let me know what it looks like. How does it feel? What are you noticing when you do it? And I mean, like, it's funny. And so like in a lunge, most of the endurance runners are going to have a tight hip flexor. So when they go into a lunge, they're like, yeah, it's my back knee that hurts.
Got it.
They're like, right? So you're like, oh, it's not the front when your knee's caving in like totally crazy. That doesn't bother you at all? No, it's my right knee that's down, the down knee going down. I feel it all the way through. And sometimes the quad, even hip flexor, the rectus femoris you'll feel that pain all the way down towards the front part of the knee there. And so it's not a front. There you go. There's a differential diagnosis necessity there. Well, it's not necessarily a front knee, an anterior knee pain. It's going to be more, and it's not infrapatellar tendonitis. It's nothing there. You got to go up into the hip and go, well, let's do a quick Thomas test. Let's lay you back, pull the knee. Okay, let me straighten the knee. Oh, it's hip flexor. Let me do the quad. Oh, yeah, it's quad. Let me externally rotate and abduct. Okay, it's IT band. So you can kind of tease all that out as you're going in through that assessment with them and figuring out, okay, well, anterior leg pain when they're running and trying to do either exercises or when they're doing whatever they're doing. So yeah, you're trying to like tease and compare both sides. And don't let just some funky form or some, flat, pes planus feet and all that kind of stuff. Don't let that kind of get you all freaked out. If it doesn't hurt, that's not what you're there for. You're there to find what's causing the problem. And if that is contributing to it, okay, jump into it and say, well, let's maybe make a tweak and see if that helps something upriver.
Cool. So let me organize my thoughts here. So I think that brings up a big point. Like you are looking at a human. And like Mike has pointed out, this is not a research project where if someone has a limitation, we're like, you're gone. Like the person in front of you, like you don't get the chance to be like, oh, well, you don't fit in with the ideal demographic. Like, so they're going to have multiple problems. And that, in my opinion, is the value of, like you said, differential diagnosis. Like they're going to have 5 problems. It's like, what is the likelihood that, each of those 5 problems, like how much are each of those 5 problems really contributing to the pain that they have? Because it may only be one of those 5 things that you need to fix. And that's where a system comes into play where you're triaging. You're like, okay, so there's a hip issue, there's hip flexor tightness, there's glute weakness, like they have bad low back motion, they have like seriously pronated feet. Like, where do you start? Like, what is the kind of highest value target that you hit that's most likely going to resolve their issue fastest? So when you said you look at lunging, you go through like manual muscle testing. What are the common outcomes that you see with these runners? Like, I'm sure tight hip flexors, like you said, they're kind of hunched forwards, which means their low back is hanging on for dear life because it's constantly, those erectors are constantly hanging on while they're leaning forward, chugging along. So if there's hip flexor tightness, there's probably going to be poor glute extension strength, poor glute med abduction strength? What are the kind of big things you find in your mind? Like, yeah, they may have 5 issues, but you're like, in your opinion, you're like, I normally address these kind of big ones, and those are my money makers. Like, someone comes in and they got glute med weakness, I hammer that, and that always gets me somewhere. Like, do you have any of those?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know who this is? It's Bob Donatelli taught me the Donatelli hip drop test. And
Okay.
what he taught was, so when a patient, you take someone inside lying and you're going to bring their hip up into abduction and you're going to maximally extend and you're going to make
Okay.
sure that the toe, that they're internally rotated. So abduction, full extension,
Okay.
internal rotation of the hip, and then
Okay.
tell them, I'm going to let go. Don't let your hip drop down to the floor. It just,
Okay.
and then they'll rebound a little bit. But if they're not able to take you and hold that end range position, glute med is not working for them nearly what it should be. So they're called the Donatelli hip drop test. Lift, maximally extend, internally rotate, and go hold this. I've had runners who are ultra runners have their hip completely drop. Leg drops to the table, and they're like, oh man, that hurt. And I go, okay, well, let's take that same position. I'm going to help you through some motion. Let's go up, down, up, down. Let's try that. Let's make this work. Up, down, up, down. How does that feel? How does it feel? Oh man, it's weak and it hurts and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. So that's one test that I do. But then you kind of start going, okay, well, let me ask you, what are you doing? So I run. Okay, run. What else do you do? I cycle. I'm on the trainer or a Peloton, or I ride outside. I swim. Oh, okay, great. And then I hike. And what are all the commonalities with those types of activities? They're linear in the sagittal plane. They go forward only, they don't go backwards, and they don't go to the side. So if you just do anything that has lateral movement in it, it's gonna be a win. You will win the runner. Move lateral, start there, and then their symptoms will subside.
Great. So glute med is a big one.
It's huge. It's huge.
So do you often find, so what else are you finding? Like, are you finding glute med is kind of the biggest that you go for, or like is glute max an issue as
Well,
well? Or do you find that
well,
that kind of resolves?
as you learn on some things, let me pull this up real quick. So as you muscle activity during run-in. So this is Chumanov is the person that did this. Chumanov et al. And this is in 2012. It's awesome. They did a preferred running stride, and then they did 5% above, like beyond what your self-selected stride is, and then 10%, and just looked at muscle activity.
Meaning stride
What
length or cadence?
stride length? Stride length.
Okay.
Yeah, stride length. Yeah, not the number of times that they're going through the run cycle. So it's loading phase, loading response on one leg to lift off. So down, across. So it's all the weight bearing motion on the leg that's down. So they look at it, and you think there's glute med, the medial gastroc, vastus lateralis, and rectus femoris are the ones that have the most muscle activity during running. All right. Now, but we do know that other muscles are contributory. Soleus. Soleus takes in about 8 times our body weight when we're running. So soleus is humongous. And we start to go through these different muscles, and we look at the ones that are active during the loading phase, and then what's happening on the fly leg that's behind as it's coming through. So hamstring in the the long distance runners, minimally affected, but it's almost never biceps brachii,
Femoris?
biceps femoris. Sorry, total brain fart. It's usually the semitendinosus, semimembranosus are the two that get affected. And so in this article, they were looking at the they had this one. They didn't have the hamstring muscles, so they're not negative, but they're only about a 1.2, 1.3 times our body weight when we're using them there. So We don't look at hamstrings as much, but we'll look at the glute strength, right? So we want to know what's going on in the glute med, glute max, and then we're going to take a look into the plantar flexors of the leg. More than the plantar flexors, so in conditions with heel pain, and so we should probably not even call things like I have plantar fasciitis or fasciosis or Achilles insertional tendinopathy or mid portion Achilles pain. Just call it heel pain until you do an examination and determine what you actually have. But plantar flexion strength is not indicative of, or does not correlate with plantar fascial pain. So it's not plantar flexor weakness that is contributing to the plantar fascial injury. It's typically hip extension strength. So glute max,
Mhm.
hamstrings to a certain extent. And we know that there's been some studies that were done in masters runners that showed they not only did manual muscle testing, they did a single leg hop test for distance. Can they hop? Can they land? And can they maintain balance? And so they would measure that between legs, pre and post, and go, wow, pain in the lower quarter went down with hip extensor strength improving, not only with just the single leg hop test, but with the hip extension strength exercises.
Well, and I'm really glad you brought that up, Mike, because it's kind of like that's the secret sauce. Like the hip extensors for like foot and ankle pain, like that's the secret sauce. Like I have had patients come in on numerous occasions. Like I've had plantar fasciitis for 6 years. My podiatrist has sent me to therapy 3 times. They always have me grab marbles and do band work. And I'm like, let's take a look at the hip. And whether they're runners or not, oftentimes they're at least active, if not runners. And like again, you test glute med, you test glute max, and they're absolute garbage. And it's again, if you may be in pain because the portion that hurts is simply taking so much more load comparatively to other areas because they, through weakness and the body trying to protect itself, will kind of offload that area onto other stronger tissues that then get the crap beat out of them.
Yep, 100%, man.
So okay, that was awesome. And so I thought it was interesting. Sorry, there's a bit of background noise. I'm trying to focus here.
No
Um,
worries.
can can you hear any of that background noise?
I hear a little bit of it, but it's
Okay, but
nothing's coming
it's
through, nothing specific. It's just like there sounds like there's some talking.
okay. Good, good. I'm trying to mute my mic when I'm not talking to make sure because that's don't want that to be a negative experience. So we're looking at like glute max, glute med. So not plantar flexors, which I find interesting. Do you find that
But
you really yeah, yeah. What were you gonna say?
but you gotta pay it. So then soleus. So in
Mhm.
some other researches, they're like you've got to be able to do 6 rep max at 1.5 times your body weight on the soleus. That's what that's
Oh,
what uh
really?
that's what a healthy runner should be able to do. So it's like you can't. It's like we're taking one thing that we researched and saw, but then we're going, well, but there is something happening in the plantar flexors when we're running that if we we don't have sufficient strength there, it may cause some problems on the other side. So it's a tough one. So I'm if it is plantar fascial or a heel pain on the plantar surface of the foot, and we're heel raising, but then they can't go all the way up through the big toe. They're kind of off to the side a little bit there, kind of coming off and can't come all the way up through. Well, and we also know medial gastroc takes a majority of the weight when we're running, not so much lateral. So, you know, you kind of got both of those sides right there. You have to kind of pay attention and go, okay, well, where is this pain coming from? But in all honesty, I would go up a level into the hip and start working max and med and get those comfortable, get them strong, and then start working your way down.
And how often do you find the inverters, everters are a problem?
Almost the only time I'm really seeing eversion problems is in the times where they're having plantar heel pain and they're offloading and running on what I call the blade of our foot or the outside of our foot. And so when they're running out there, the everters, the peroneals are kicking on just a little bit stronger and working a little harder than they probably normally are. But then we can go into, medial tibial stress syndrome as well. But typically I find peroneals, if they're ever on fire, there's something else wrong there. They're not usually the culprit. Like, you don't go, oh, peroneus longus tendinopathy is your problem.
And so if someone is having, so now we kind of picked out another thing that runners may have is that kind of burning on the lateral calf. What do you think is the biggest contributor to that? Is that still hip issues?
It could be. Where I would probably go, if after I've assessed everything, I'll kind of go down to the foot at this time and start saying, can you get your first ray down on the ground? Can you step across, go standing on your feet, step across, and that back foot, can you keep that back foot down, dorsiflex it, but keep your big toe down, your first ray down when you're coming across? If you can see them lifting early or lifting up on that inside, not really coming down, especially in a barefoot situation, they're really trying to avoid that. I'd say, okay, we need to work on bringing that forefoot down, maybe working a little bit of mid-tarsal joint, mobilizing and working and stretching out a little bit, and then cueing them. And there's a really fun device, on Instagram there, I think it's the Black Box or Black something or another. It's a two independent, so I'm gonna go get it. Hold on.
Yes, it's called the black box, but yeah, go grab it.
Is that it? Let me grab it.
Yes, I know what you're talking about though, if you want to grab it.
I got the cheap one. I got the one that Black Box is like $150 online. And I'm like, that's insane. But they do give you just a little bit of, they give you access to their exercises, which you're a physical therapist, man. You can figure that out. So you see how there's two independent boards here?
Yes.
This is Juanita from China.
Heck yeah.
$25.
Nice.
So you can see you can work forefoot and rear foot independently, and you can work them together. And you have these little boards here to either stabilize or create instability. So I can have someone standing on this as they're coming through with their foot and see if they can drop this down without a bunch of rear foot adaptations there.
That's way cool. So
yeah, this is a really, really good, and it's cheap. Hey, you runner, go buy this and have this at home, so that I'll show you what to do at any time. You can get on there and start playing with it and go, oh man, my foot is super stiff. Why can't I move this like I used to? Then you want to start doing that.
Yeah, way cool. So how often, because I've been curious about this myself, are they everting because the tib posterior is locking up because it is not sufficiently strong to allow kind of the elastic absorption during the running cycle?
For what posterior tib is, it's a pretty small muscle. It does help form that medial longitudinal arch of the foot. So I'm not saying that it's not. I think there's probably some other factors in play, and I think it gets affected because it's not a super strong one, and if it's having to work more. So as the foot's locking up, as we're supinating and locking our foot, pronating to release the bag of bones, conform and come off, and then resupinate and come off. I don't know. It's an interesting question. I would say from my experience, it seems like post tib's taking on too much of that role, and then that's when that shin splint comes on.
Okay, got it. Well, and that's really what I want to know, because you've been doing this for a long time, and that's really the purpose of the podcast. Like, what do you do that you find success with?
Yeah.
Because other people, maybe they haven't thought about the things that you do, and they can start implementing them and get better results.
And remember, I do it my way, a way. I've paid a lot of attention. I've read articles. I've studied. I went to courses, but I've also put my hands on people. I've approached running groups. I wanted to see them. I saw them for free for a time. I would come in on Saturdays. Hey, will you come in? That's the only day you can come in. Or I just come in. Let me put you on the treadmill and run you. Let me look at you and let me see what you got. that's how I became, well, let me go ahead and do this with you.
Oh, I remember all your running seminars. You'd be setting up
Yeah.
chairs on Friday
Yeah.
afternoon. You're like, yeah, I'm going to be
Yeah.
hosting a running seminar. And no, I remember that you hustle hard, Mike. And I know we're already over an hour. I know you want to, like, you
Uh-huh.
need to get home, say hi to your wife. So in my mind, it seems like we've highlighted a few things. Like
Yep.
soleus needs to be very strong.
Strong.
Glute med and glute max need to be very efficient at contracting. We'll just call them strong, active, efficient, whatever. Um, and also, like, qualitatively, like, look for the deviations of the foot, put on your thinking cap and think, why is the body choosing to preferentially load or offload the foot in that way? And it doesn't really seem like hamstrings are the problem for long distance runners like they would be for sprinters. Do you often find that, and this will be my last question, and then we'll just talk some interventions and close up. Do you find that knee extension, like the quads, are the quads much of an issue for these runners?
Nah, they're usually pretty strong.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll come in. They'll have nice definitions and hold up pretty strong. And we'll do a ball wall squat, kind of up and down. Let me see what that looks like. And then, their ability to get their butt to heels isn't very good. There's
Mm-hmm.
some tension in the front of the hips and tightness in the calf, so they rotate their feet out a little bit, pinch, and then collapse. They don't have very
Mm-hmm.
strong core. So there's a couple things that happen with that, but yeah, they don't necessarily do very they don't I don't the quads are either overdeveloped or working, and in very rare occasions have I had like a vastus lateralis issue rather than an IT band issue. And I tested, I'm like, oh yeah, it's IT band. I'm like, it is not getting better. I go, let me roll and work that lateralis out a little bit where I would normally not be like, I go, it's a waste of time. Did it, and they feel like, oh man, that I felt tons better.
Mm-hmm.
So it just happened to get some trigger points that developed in there and was causing him some that lateral leg pain that I thought was something else. But quads I don't usually see them causing the problem. They can get irritated and sore with that extreme downhill running that a lot of people are doing. So
Mm-hmm.
I pay attention to it, and we'll usually treat like infrapatellar tendon, do some good isometric programs with that, some manual stuff just to kind of get things to kind of loose and increase blood flow into that area.
Okay, good to know. So it looks like the big ones, like, you really need to look at the hips, really need to look at the core, need to look at how they move through the spine. Like, that's important. Look at the range of motion of the hip and keep in mind the strength required of the soleus, because it's going to take a tremendous amount of load, tens of thousands of times before their long runs are over. So I know that you probably have some go-tos for exercises. Um, what are your kind of go-tos? Like, maybe if someone is coming in with glute med and glute max issues, where do you kind of start? And you don't have to do like sets and reps. You can if you'd like, but where do you start? What do you kind of generally progress to with the end goal of getting them to what exercise? And I would just like to take it through the hips, because I mean, you can only do so much with the soleus. It plantar flexes.
Yeah,
Like,
good call.
so what's your kind of go to for the hip? Maybe some progressions, and then we'll close out.
All right. So there was a really, really good article. Let me just see if I can just find it real quick here. Oh, here it is. I'm going to send this to you. Gluteal muscle forces during hip focused injury prevention and rehabilitation exercises. I'm going to send this to you. It's from Tyler Collins, is his name. And so this report is freaking great. And so it's demonstrating the glute exercises that increase specific exercises the most.
Okay.
So from single leg squat, split squat, resisted, the single leg Romanian deadlift, that single leg RDL is great. single leg hip thrust,
Mhm.
banded side step, sideline hip abduction, hip hike, and then the side plank. And so what's great about this, if you just wanted to know what, if a runner comes in and you're like, so what's wrong with you? Okay, we're having some quad issues. Okay, we're going to do single leg squat, split squat with you is going to be our focus group for a functional weight bearing activity, right? Those are going to be two things that you should be able to do no pain free to enable to return to run. Pistol squat's a difficult one, and then the split squat with resistance is difficult as well. And then if
Mhm.
you want to go into, so that's for kind of like the glute max stuff. So if it's glute med, I'm going to hit the single leg Romanian deadlift, and then you can do even the single leg hip thrust will get glute med going, but your banded side steps, your hip abduction, and then side plank actually with the side down hits glute min like more than med. So that side plank, if I'm thinking if I dry needle and I'm right at that spot, right at the greater trochanter where the glute min kind of attachment is coming up, and I'm hitting there and it's super tender and sore. Like, brother, you're doing side planks and progression. You can go from side plank into hip abduction, do it to both sides, keep things even, multiple reps and things of that nature. So, and then having said that, right? So those single leg RDLs, single leg, you notice a pattern, single leg activity. Running is a single leg sport, and it's okay that you double leg squat. It's okay that you do that. Do single leg activity. It will tease out the weakness so that you can go, okay, we're going to do an extra set on this side to get caught up so that we can move you forward. And then curtsy squat or curtsy lunge is a fantastic one. And then
Mhm.
if you're going to be in standing and do hip abduction, if you have access to the cable machine, put that cable cuff on your knee and let your leg come behind your back, like behind the back side and out. Let that hip kick out as the muscles pulling across and then kick it back out there. You're going to get that nice elongation of the muscle and then engage and come across. It's a fantastic exercise. Now, don't get me wrong, you can do clamshells, you can do prone hip extensions, you can do all that stuff, and I'm okay with it. But there's research-based exercises that are very, very good, and if you look at them, you're like, boom, this hits this muscle really, really well. And I'll send that article over to you.
Yeah, that would be great. I always like when I can to include the article and the references.
That is
Um,
it's a great, straightforward article that's like, boom, this is what we got. Go with it.
yeah. No, okay, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Um, I don't think I have anything else for you, Mike. We've kind of covered quite the gamut. I think I will title this adding value, adding value to your practice and treating runners. Um, if you got better ideas, you can let me know.
I like
But
it. I like it.
but Mike, what are your kind of like concluding thoughts? Anything you'd like to say to the people listening related to running, or just kind of obviously tell them where to find you on Instagram. If there's other things that I like, if there's Con Ed courses you do that they could attend, just anything you'd like to share.
I'm working on the Con Ed side of things, and there's some really, really good therapists. Chris Johnson, PT, he's based out of Seattle. Dude's a stud. He's just a good athlete. He's an excellent runner. Chris Johnson's his name. He's a deep dive guy, man. He'll go deep. He talks a lot about bone stress injury, and we didn't get into bone stress injury. And man, we could probably do a whole another 90 minutes on bone stress injuries. So I'm working on the course thing. Gait assessment, I like a lot. The problem is there is some subjectivity with what you're seeing and what you're focusing in on. Because you and I can take a runner, put them on the treadmill and watch them posterior, lateral, and then anterior, and we'll kind of develop our own. Well, this is normal, this is abnormal, this is wrong. That's what we need to correct. I use it as a baseline, but then when they're injured, the pain problem will manifest itself. And it's so funny. Everyone's like, well, I'm a 4-foot runner. or I'm a mid-foot runner. I'm like, man, 90% of the population strikes on their heel. That's why Nike made the shoe. This is the way they do. You're more than likely a heel striker, but who cares? It doesn't matter really, especially over 100 miles, because you're not going to really, you're not, you're not those professionals. Those pros run a certain way because they're doing almost sub 5 minute miles for 26 miles. So they have to run a certain way or things are going to start breaking down. So, I love the run assessment, and it's good to use, but just, everyone's going to go, well, I see this and I see that. Don't worry about it. Get it as a baseline so you can compare it to when they're injured. And then you're going to go, you can show, then you'll have video evidence. Hey, look at how you're running now. In this little 10-second clip we got before you were hurt, no problems. Now here, you seen how your hips circumducting? You're doing that for 12 miles, man. That your hips just cannot handle that. That's what we need to work on. Other than that, I'm on the gram, Mike the PT. I'd love for you to follow me. I'd love to answer any questions. I just love doing what I do. So I'm glad you have this podcast, Nate Dogg. You're doing it. This is great.
Well, thanks, Mike. I really appreciate that. And I will say, Mike, have you thought about finding a way to do virtual running analysis consults?
I think that would be a relatively easy thing to do. And I was on one of the Facebook groups and someone was talking about an injury. And I'm like, well, hey, look, go, if you want me to provide you, because everyone's giving them, just do what I did. And, the whole anecdotal thing. And it's like, okay, well, if you want to give yourself like a posterior and a lateral view of you running on your treadmill and send it to me. And she did. I gave her my opinion, said, this is what I see. This is what I think, go find someone that will address those things. So I think that's a very, very doable thing. And it's would be a fun way to kind of to tease out certain things in runners and go, okay, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I think you should do. And then take it from there.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about that because I think it would be, talking about services available, remote services like that. That's like, hey, it's $100. It's like, take a 30-second video in these directions. Yep. Like, it's like, and send them in and I will kind of give you my 2 cents and help create like a general program and see how it goes. Could be a very fruitful and useful thing, especially if, there's plenty of people who say that they know things about running, but don't have near the experience you do.
And we know when we increase our step rate, so the cadence, as our cadence increases 5%, we get certain things that happen. 10% increase in cadence, certain things happen. So we do know that when there is an increased cadence, we do get off our heels a little more. We do land a little more underneath us. We're not so far out in front of us with our heel. So there are some benefits to having those pointers. You can become just a little bit more efficient.
Cool.
And efficiency over 100 miles makes a big difference.
Sure. No, agreed. Well, Mike, thank you. Thank you so much. Seriously, guys, if you guys follow Mike's stuff, he shares lots of things about his clinic, about kind of what they're doing, what he's doing, the thoughts he's got, all sorts of different stuff. And shoot him a DM. Like, Mike is a very easy guy to talk to, very knowledgeable. And I would trust his expertise if I had questions related to these things. So, Mike, thanks again, man. This has been awesome.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, I love you, man. This is awesome. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Take care, guys.
See you, brother.